Hello, everyone. I'm super excited today to have a young, talented, and I would say brilliant software engineer, Jov. He is very successful in embracing cutting edge latest technologies and methodologies. Has a really good educational YouTube channel focusing on agile and DevOps, TDD, and all these like good stuff, wholesome stuff we should all be doing, like daily exercise and eating healthy and doing TDD, etc. I watched John's YouTube videos. They're really brilliant, hands-on, amazing quality, and all for free. And we all recommend everybody who wants to learn how to do proper TDD, proper software engineering, have a look, code it along with Job. You can always pause, you can rewind, and all these brilliant ways that we are leveraging technology today. So without further ado, I would give the mic to Jov. He can tell us a little bit, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're so passionate about software engineering, and where do you see yourself going in the future? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Alex, for this tremendous introduction. I'm really happy to be part of this series where you are interviewing really young, I would say, professionals, but I really appreciate all of them because they're really, really good at what they do. Yeah, I am originally coming from Macedonia, currently living in the Netherlands. I am focused on mobile, basically on Android, and I use Kotlin, and I'm coming from the JVM nature, let's say. And yeah, I am trying to help the community about fundamentals of good software development methodologies and how we can actually steer the wheel towards coming up with better quality in the software industry. So I started my YouTube channel recently, and I've started with actually with a fundamental, with a how we can actually go with baby steps, doing the test-driven development to build the software, and then further on, I'm planning to make sort of full, let's say, delivery from scratch towards building in an entire app, and then do continuous delivery as I go. So we'll see how that goes. I have sort of scratch and plan, but we'll see how that's gonna go.
Great, thank you. And I would also add, if you are maybe a novice or planning to go into software development career, Jobs channel is mandatory, and he will give you really good send off. So if you follow his teaching, then you can safely and confidently take a position of a junior or novice developer. You won't be stressed out. And also, if you're a seasoned developer, but you maybe are coming from a different school or vintage, then this is a great refresher or a great way to relearn certain things and maybe learn new habits and maybe unlearn some old habits. So I think, Job, what you're doing is applicable to anyone. And even when I'm watching your videos, I'm learning a lot, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, etc. So it's not just about. I don't think you said it's not just about mobile and narrow niche, which is Android, and what it's just fundamentals. It applies to
Exactly.
any any software engineering, and you're using this particular vertical just because this is your mastery is in that domain,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's easy to illustrate all these concepts, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen people that are following the channel and me in general. They're thinking and they're announcing that, okay, this is in Android. Of course, I'm plugging that into an Android context because that's where I'm coming from. But what I'm showing there is really, it should be language independent, platform independent. It doesn't really matter what you do. And actually, when I started, it was some 7 almost years ago with test-driven development. I have around 10, 11 years entirely in the career. So when I started actually at university, I think you touched on the topic with Alejandro. He said that actually in order to teach something, you really have to understand it well in order to present to students, to whoever. From my experience at the University of the Computer Science that I was studying, we were studying, let's say, really basics. We were studying particular language, the syntax of the language, which was Java at that time, and we were not really touching on fundamentals. We were trying to solve Fibonacci, string interpolation, that kind of things, but not the crucial. We were nobody taught us the crucial thing of the software, like why you are building the software. So you are putting a hypothesis, and then you start from there. So you start from broken thing. You don't know what you're gonna build, and then but you know sort of where you wanna go, and then you take baby steps and then listen to the feedback in order to go. So for the first 2 years, I was just working. Or not two, basically 4 years. I was just like anyone working in a company, but then I joined a company where I had where I met really a good mentor, and then that's the moment when I started, looking into all these the books, the things that. So he was able to actually sit in front of the computer together with me and show me what he wants to show, and I think that's essential in the learning process. So if in my belief, if for example a novice ends up in a team where all these practices are sort of established already, they're gonna adopt to that. But if they end up in a team where I don't know, the regular software, I mean, it's, I don't know if that's the right word, saying regular, but like, the typical software development, then of course, it's up to them to choose how to drive their career. So yeah, I think right now the entrance level in the industry is pretty low,
Yeah.
and the developers are in demand more and more.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I think it's not easy to establish this. But I'm happy that I see many more young enthusiasts that are actually following all this and embracing all this all this wisdom from what we are learning from the older folks, in order to apply better practices to build our industry sort of in a better way. Because if we don't do that, I believe that one day somebody will come up with some law, about this is how you deliver software, this is how you test software, this is how you do this, and then they might be completely relevant in the IT industry, and then they will establish some laws on us, and just like they did with bookkeeping, for example, in the economics. Um, yeah, because our industry is, as you many times, as you said, we are in diapers. So we have to, start from somewhere. And I'm happy to see all these enthusiasts steering the wheel towards what I believe is the right way.
Yeah, and that's really what makes me very excited is meeting people such as yourself. And to be honest, and I'm just comparing to what happened before. Uh, it used to be that 10 years, I mean, if we are being really critical, 10 years in this industry is not enough. Right? And if even I heard Robert Martin, Uncle Bob, says that first 20 years, you don't know what you're doing. You're just kind of crawling in the dark. And it takes about 2 decades in this profession until you start really reach a certain level of mastery. So that's really kind of discouraging. Right? Who wants to spend 20 years in dark before you start? But now, and I think you hit a very important point. The importance of a mentor. And I think it's thanks to this mentor that you sped up. I don't think you need to wait for 20 years. Your generation should not wait for 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe 5, maybe, I don't know but certainly we need to crunch it down. Because it's ludicrous to spend 20 years until you can say, okay, now I think I know what I'm doing. And before, I can speak from my own experience, I've been doing this for 30 years. And I didn't have a mentor. So everything was still in the dark and confusion and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure if I had a mentor like you did, then everything would speed up, right? But it took a long time before I even got, and back in the day when I started, we didn't have internet. We only had like those magazines and books, and information was crawling, was very slow to penetrate. Um, and so it took a while until we even got the idea about extreme programming. Because it didn't, right? It took years, and slowly people started getting into agile, and that it was really slow. But nowadays, I think thanks to all the channels and Twitter, and we quickly found each other, right? Bam, 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 and there we are, like-minded people who are really passionate about this, and now the quality is so much higher, right? So that's why I'm so excited, because I think your generation really has the good chance of avoiding
Yeah,
all these wasting time. We've wasted so much time, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why I'm encouraging everybody to start really watching your tutorials.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think the one point that that you mentioned, back in the times there was no internet. Then, as the time goes, we are having more and more materials online, and most of them are free or very cheap. So what actually has to be done is just you open internet and start learning. So I'm really open for discussions and for steer the wheel to the right direction in a way that, like, for example, if somebody wants to learn and if I can help, I want to be available for them. But as you said, first we need to grow as profession, our profession, like as professionals, we need to grow in order to establish the professionalism. So having somebody to help you out is a great thing. But what I'm seeing many times in our industry is like huge ego in many people. So, for example, if somebody comes now to me and says, your test-driven development course is not really, the right way to do things. Maybe you can think about this. Maybe you can think about that. I'm gonna take that. It's not that, like, I have 10 years experience in this. I'm not gonna listen to what you say. So I think that collaboration has to be happening. So the essence of basically one of the important parts of the XP is the collaboration. So sit together and you see what's gonna work, what's not gonna work. Right now, maybe there is not many critics, I would say, but yeah, I think we have to wait for the time to pass in order to see, like, to get, because we evolve anyway. So some things are going to work better, some things are not going to work as good. So we have to see and balance as we go on the way. So I think as the mass grows with more and more people doing this, I think we are going to get to better and better over time.
Yeah, I agree. So we need to promote it better, and it's all the meetings of the mind share, right? The meetings of the minds, and anytime we meet and chat, uh, new things emerge unexpectedly, and this is the beauty of it. I think that you may come with a pre-established agenda and say, I want to talk about this or that, but then, you know, if we are kind of talking to in a vacuum, then it's kind of self-perpetuating and it's low quality. It turns into crap.
Yeah.
But the more people join, then all of a sudden I change my mind or I see another angle. And that is the most exciting part of this whole journey. That's why I'm excited about us meeting. And right now we're having one-on-one, but hopefully soon we will have more joint sessions
Yeah.
and let the sparks fly. And that is inspirational because in a split second, you get another completely new idea. These are the things that, because I don't know, I wanted to ask you if you have experienced or engaged in mob programming, which is now taking the world by the storm. And I really like mob. I really like mob programming. It's a completely different thing because sadly, up until recently, our profession was based on individual working in isolation. So you're the engineer, we send you into the corner and say, Jov, here's the requirements, and go and implement it. And that is the least imaginable effective way to do things. This is the stupidest way to approach this profession, is to go into your corner and spend weeks just banging on the keyboard and come back and say, ta-da, that's stupid. That's
Yeah, but I think even worse than that is they're gonna say, okay, how much time it's gonna take you to do this?
yeah.
And as you said, it's like a complete plan. So even if you have all the details of that plan that you want to deliver somewhere, um, you know, you cannot uh, you cannot plan exactly how much time it's gonna take. And even if you know, let's say, it's going to take me this much time. So sit and you start working. The thing that even like no matter how they're going to use this estimation, whether it is informational, whether it is whatever, you have committed that you are going to be done by this time, which means that subconsciously you are having lots of pressure to be on time. That means that this estimation turned into, you know, it sort of invites punishment culture,
Mm.
because if you if you are sort of, you know, cutting corners in order to get on time, you are killing the creativity of the person. So they are not gonna, you know, go around and search for better ways, improve the quality of what they do, and so on. So basically, they're gonna work in a, it's sort of, as you said, in a black box. They are gonna sit and then just type what they know. It's really kills the creativity. It's hard to grow that way. So we have to. I mean, why this all happens? I was thinking many times. So basically, uh, we have to understand why they need the estimations. So they want to plan on a long time maybe, or something like that. So when it comes from top to bottom, and information that something has to be done in this time, or like they want this planning, we have to push back and ask. And even further, we have to maybe start thinking the different approaches of the entire structure in the companies. Instead of having, you know, top down management, maybe have a lead that can show you by example how the things will be working. So us, for example, the young people that are that are really getting these things, you know, to step up into positions where they can actually lead the thing, not manage. I don't really, you know, like this managing thing,
Mhm.
because, for example, the more you expose from the technical details, if when you're working on something, so for example, they're asking you for an estimation, you start thinking about all these technical details, you start exposing them. You're inviting the managers to micromanage you because they want to know all the details that you are going to be doing and why. That's why, for example, you have mentioned many times about the rework. Why they really have to know about how you are going to deliver something,
Yeah.
right? So it should be another iteration, but they are seeing that as an entire rework. I don't see it that way. Even if I abandon everything and start from scratch, there is lots of learning from the previous try in my head that I piled up, and I got too many information. So that's why I think this, XP way of doing things is really more efficient. So you
Mhm.
start with a thin slice, you deliver to the customers, and then you ask them, is this what you want? How can we improve this? What are the additional things that you want to work on, that you want to see? And then you go in another iteration, and then you go from there.
Yeah.
And that's going to minimize also the cost, because if these estimations are starting initially because of the cost, and they want to plan the cost over time and whatever, this model is way more efficient because you are saving money, and actually a lot of money, by actually doing something in a short period of time and then validate what were your hypothesis about the topic, and then then you know where to go from in the next iteration, compared to doing bunch of nonsense for like 6 months or a year, and then you think that all of this is going to be used by somebody, then half of the things, or maybe, three-fourths of the things are not going to be used at all, which means you wasted a lot of money. um, I mean, people don't see that as money, but basically you have to pay your programmers that are doing that work, and that's where the money lays. And I really encourage you to continue with these sessions, because exactly these things that many things are talking about will start clicking to the heads of the people
Mhm.
by these conversations. You know, many of the things that I was thinking about started clicking way better when you were having the chat with the other people
Yeah. Yeah.
in this series. So
Yeah.
I think this is really good,
Yeah.
good
We are
thing to
we're
do.
lucky. I agree. We are lucky. We are bumping into brilliant people such as yourself, and this is on a growth path, right? You can't shrink that way. But what you mentioned here, I would just add that in my mind, we are facing, or maybe butting heads, or how we want to put it, conflicting with some F words. There are some F words in the making that we are fighting. For example, one F word. is failure. That people, sometimes when I'm teaching or when I'm explaining, presenting, and I like to emphasize failure, fail first. And then sometimes I get approached by some of the C-level executive people and say, could you maybe not use the word failure? Maybe, so failure is something that is still politically not correct because there's a fear that failing means, okay, we go bankrupt. So it is a little bit slippery slope. And you and I know that without failure, nothing's going to happen. And in my experience, 30 years, 99% of the time I fail in order to succeed 1%. This is true. Another F word is finality premise. We call it finality premise, that everything is envisioned in its final Big Bang form with the bow tie. Ta-da, there you go. This is it. But that's not how things work in life. Nothing is final. Unless we talk about the industrial age assembly line where you're assembling widgets and your component, final. Whatever you're working on, next. You never revisit that. If something's wrong with that, there's a quality assurance at the end of the line who's gonna discharge that. Like, okay, this is a faulty component, go into trash, right? And then the business operates on the assumption that majority of these components will not go into the trash, and that's how we make money. But that's very narrow, and that's kind of industrial age mass production mentality, where you are just cranking whatever it is, components, cars, screwdrivers, whatever. You're just on assembly line, conveyor belt, pumping it out, economy of scales, mass production. Software engineering got caught into that mindset. We're still operating under that assumption, and we refuse to acknowledge that software, our profession should be more viewed as a cottage industry. I think we should go back into the cottage industry where we are crafting things. And we are doing, as you said, starting from a very vague approximation and then making small iterative changes to increase the resolution. A lot of people talk about incremental. Incremental is waterfall. Incremental means, okay, here's a system, here's one part. I'm going to spend all my time working until this is the highest possible resolution. This part is like now complete, final. It's a finality premise. Done, next part. And I'm incrementing. This is the conveyor belt, right? This is how we build cars and all these like things that are completely, there's no uncertainty there, right? When you have a blueprint and you're building an engineered physical object, there shouldn't be any uncertainty at that point. So you're going incrementally. First, steering wheel, okay, it's done. But in the knowledge industry, what we are doing, we are iterating. We start from very, very low resolution, very fuzzy, and then we work on all the parts at the same time, making them more and more crisp, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that I find in daily practice, the hardest to explain and to adopt and to sell and to live by is partial delivery, which you hinted upon. The secret ingredient that is empowering engineers is partial delivery. Because if you find yourself working in an arrangement that is okay with partial delivery, you have superpowers. You decide, nobody else. You decide how much vertically, how thin do you slice your vertical slice, and then there's no fear of not meeting any deadlines because there is no deadlines. You keep delivering, right, and you keep increasing the resolution. Your customers are happy because they keep constantly getting things. And yes, maybe in this iteration, that functionality is not fully fleshed, right? You get something done, but maybe you have to turn around and do something manual. But guess what? Next week, all of a sudden, hey, this now has been automated, and you gradually keep them satisfied. And there's absolutely no problem with that. But if the management has this assembly line mindset, finality premise, and the fear of failure, they would freak out. Another F word, right? They were like, no. We have to, everything has to be squeaky clean, polished, and then we can tada. And then we discovered that tada, customers like, that's not
Yeah.
that
I don't need this.
doesn't do it for me at all. Like, what do you mean? So because somebody on the other side of the fence thought this is good for the customers, we are
Yeah.
not Apple. You know, every now and then you have Apple who says, "Look, I'm going to get rid of all the buttons and get used to it," and the whole world is like, "This is the stupidest thing ever." Well, guess what? They dominate the market. But we are not Apple. We don't have that kind of brilliant genius in us, within us. So we, like you say, software development is a contact sport. We need to be boots on the ground, almost like that's why they use Scrum rugby. We're in touch with customers. We're in touch with the whole business. It's on a daily
Yeah.
basis, and that's why I love mob programming, because it's real time, face to face collaboration. There is no time for communication. There is no time for writing emails. There is no time for opening Jira tickets. You just
Yeah.
deliver. This is the secret sauce, I believe, and this is what your generation is like fish takes into the water. But the
Yeah.
problem, the existing, the incumbents are always shocked and freaked out when you start talking like that because of the conveyor belt, assembly line, mass production, industrial age mentality, which now is the 21st century. We need to abandon it. That's like 200 years old. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you touched on that topic with Danny, like how do we make the future better?
Yeah.
But we are stuck with things that are too much like in the ages ago. So like we haven't dealt with that one. We want better world. So we have to first start dealing with the root cause of the problems.
Mhm.
As you said, they are focused on like they're thinking as an assembly line. Although now in the car industry, let's say, it's not one assembly line.
Yeah.
So you start first with the chassis. If the chassis fails, it doesn't go forward.
Yeah.
It goes back to recycle and then start from scratch. So even there, we are having iterations, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, and why is that? They do that because they want to reduce the cost.
Mhm.
Of course, if you come up with the entire car and then you realize that the chassis is not there, it doesn't fit, then guess what? You wasted way more
Mhm.
because no customer will buy that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think even there, people are starting to reduce the cost, and then we have to do that in the software industry as well because it's way cheaper in the software industry to, as you said, deliver a tiny slice and then talk to the customers, see what they want. So it's gonna be way more sort of efficient financially, delivery wise, whatever you want,
Yeah.
however you count
Right.
it.
And also, as we talked about, my biggest pet peeve is when I hear people tell me that bugs are inevitable. I'm very upset about that because that's not true. Bugs are inevitable if you don't know what you're doing. Of course, I would agree on that. But if you do know what you're doing, then bugs should not be authored at all. And we have a lot of conflict with that, and people are very upset when I talk about. But honestly, I don't think if we are professionals, I don't think we should have bugs in our products. I don't think that's excusable. That's like, hey, that's life. What can you do? Get used to it. Not that I.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if somebody thinks that there must be bugs or there will be bugs, it's fine. But if you aim in order to deliver something buggy, that is really a big problem. So if you are developing something and you know that you're gonna deliver bug, that's sort of wrong mindset. But today there are teams and people that are sort of comfortable to deliver things after having a green light from a QA, and we know that in XP there is no QA,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, it's fine to have a QA team. I'm not saying that they should we should get rid of those people, but they should do only exploratory testing.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be finding bugs for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We are the ones responsible for what we deliver, and we should aim for like bugless software delivering to them.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I had last year. I engaged. I don't know if you know. There's this older generation, Dave Nicolette, and pretty prominent software engineer. So we invited him to give a 1 hour talk on his journey to our. I'm responsible for leading 9 DevOps teams right now. And Dave said one interesting thing. He said, I started my career in the 70s. And he says, for some time there, if you build something, if you program something, that's it. end to end. You are responsible for it. I mean, back then they were working in isolation. Then, but like something crashes in production, you do it. You are the operation. You are the everything. You're talking. You're gathering requirements. You're talking to the customer. You're implementing. You're running with it. Everything. And then something happened. We don't know exactly when. Maybe in the 80s, maybe early 90s, when the two things split and they shoved development. You guys just program over here, and you guys over there, you are operating the system. And like now we're trying to bring it back with DevOps. It's very
I think
interesting.
because of the scale, I think that's my opinion. Because of the scale of the things. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I
No, but
interrupted you.
again, it's a little bit tricky part to understand why did it happen and why did it take us so long to realize this is not working. If I'm the operator and you're the programmer and we never talk, you just toss over the fence like you run with this. Now I'm like, how can I effectively and efficiently operate that? I don't understand what you did. I don't understand all the, and obviously, and in production we have all kinds of issues because I don't really know how to properly configure. But something goes wrong. Okay, they call me, right? I'm like, Jov is maybe he's on a fishing expedition. It's not, so with DevOps we're trying to heal that. We're trying to bring it back and to say, look, you build it, you run it, and something goes wrong, we're gonna call you in the middle of the night, which is a professional way of doing things, right? Because it's your baby, you own it. But it took a long time, right? But please continue with the scale, your operation.
Yeah, I think, as you said, the entire industry is again young, and we need time to see what works, what doesn't work. So I see this as part of the things that we tried and we saw they don't work. In mobile, for example, world, there is no things like that. I mean, we do the DevOps we go from scratch till delivery, and we are responsible for the entire thing. So essentially, that's a DevOps. And there is no things like I'm gonna do the development, you do the delivery to the whoever is the customer. So we do the entire thing. But again, as you said, it's like an old thing that we are just reinvented with a new name, and then
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
trying to merge and split things.
yeah. And so last year I was fortunate that we had hired a new CTO or a visionary, and this guy's great. And so basically, the structure was that we had nine DevOps teams, and then you have, shall we say, legacy, which was called app delivery. So it deals with legacy and all this delivering apps. And so I asked the CTO. I provided him with a list of uh, before after, like current state and where we want to be, and ask him to give me his priorities. You know what his number one priority? Really interesting, and I think it's brilliant. He says he wants teams to transform from being delivery teams to being opportunity seeking and problem solving teams. And I think that's the way to go. And that means I don't care. You are on the ground, you seek opportunities, you find them, you solve them. You don't need me to bark orders down and say, okay, now do this and talk to this customer. No, you explore the market. You have ears to the ground. You know your customers. You feel what would be good for the business. Nobody knows better than you, let's face it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant. I'm like, okay, I applaud that, right? If somebody is that lucid to understand that we're not a pizza delivery team. We cannot order pizza and we deliver. That's not how it works. But sadly, some other organizations treat software development as pizza delivery. I want anchovies and I don't want pepperoni. We're not
No, I
ordering.
think I also agree that it's really brilliant way of putting the entire thing, and it fits well with what you said with a partial delivery, I would say. Of course, like Apple did what they've done, and Steve Jobs was a visionary, but I don't believe that there was zero market research on that.
No.
I don't believe that, and even if that happened, it's like 1 in a million or whatever. We are far better if we just, I mean, given the opportunity to just give something and then see if that's the right direction.
And that's why I say, you know, opportunity seeking and problem solving. The problem solving
Exactly.
side is your superpowers, where you're solving problems with partial delivery. That's how you solve problems. And
Exactly.
nobody should step in and say, okay, drop whatever you're doing and I want the estimate for the next 6 months, blah, blah. No, you are on the journey, you are solving problems because nobody can solve problems like you can.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And
You're,
most of the teams, you are like in direct contact with the customers,
yeah,
and you know what are their problems. So
yeah.
nothing really stops you. So I think instead of the top-down management, we should just change the wheel the other way around. We
Mhm.
should go because we as developers know how we can solve the problems of the customers the best. And yeah, in that sense, this really makes lots of sense to me.
Yeah. And then, if you look at people who are presiding over it and who are uh, whatever approving budgets and dealing with money, I think their job and my job is like a gardening, right? You cannot order plants to grow. The best you can do, give them good soil, give them water, and remove weeds and shrubs to give them sunshine. That's it. How plants are
Exactly.
going to grow, let them figure it out. We don't know, they know. But our job is to make sure we give them conditions. And so I think this is why I'm so enthused and happy about this arrangement, because he's talking about let people experiment, let people fail. You don't even have to know that they failed. Let them
Yeah.
do their work and they know. And the results will show. If nothing is showing up after, I don't know, 6 months, a year, then we need to look into what's going on. But very unlikely that things are not going to improve, right? If you give agency to the uh, teams who are, and the team should be working like one, right?
Exactly, exactly. But there should be lots of trust, right? I mean, why this we are not seeing this right now? Because yeah, there is not much trust. We believe that there has to be a micromanaging team that will know all the details, like where the money go and so on. Instead, what should be happening is like if I know how to solve the problem of my customers, and I need, for example, a better PC, all you have to do is just remove that bottleneck from me.
Yeah,
Just give me what I need, and then I'm gonna solve the problem, and that's it.
that's what I mean, giving you agency. Some,
Exactly.
some enlightened companies even give company credit cards to the workers, and you just go and you buy whatever equipment you want, and we won't even question. Like, you know, you deal with your budget. You're a grown up. You're not a kid, right? And at the end of the day, it's all about, like you say, trust. And the trust can only be earned if we measure the right things, because a lot of these organizations measure output, but they don't measure outcome. So starting from the primitive number of lines of code you wrote today, that's just output. That doesn't mean anything. Or how many story points have you delivered this sprint? This is output.
Yeah.
I can deliver a million story points. What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Out.
as I said many times as well, like they're sort of having this Jira thing or whatever in order to track how productive I am. Look, I can be very productive, but I can produce lots of crap,
Yeah,
lots of garbage. Nobody's gonna use that. How about measuring the impact?
yeah, yeah,
How
exactly.
many customers are satisfied from what I built? For example, how much money did we make
Yes.
in the last year? Let's say
Yeah.
that kind of things. What is the like? I'm investing into something, then what what's the problem that I'm going to solve with it?
Yeah.
People today are really keen on like going for whatever hype there is. Like they are not sort of investing into the right things, I would say.
Mhm.
Instead of, let's say, investing into teaching people how to learn fundamentals, learn test driven development,
Yeah.
or that kind of things, they would see a hype somewhere that, oh, Kubernetes is now the cool thing. Let's go for Kubernetes. Now we have to reestablish the entire team. We have to invest into infrastructure. We are going to waste 500,000. And what we are going to solve with that? Well, we will just host our introduction page somewhere on like Kubernetes.
Yeah.
So if the Kubernetes is solving you a half a million euros problem, then go for it. I'm fine.
Mhm.
But if it solves you nothing, or if you have better ways to solve it, why investing in that?
Yeah. And that's why when people come to me with some, oh, Alex, I think we should be doing this. My first question is always, I want to see what bottleneck have you found. First, there's got to be a bottleneck that you find. Then once you find the bottleneck and you can demonstrate, like here's the bottleneck, here's where things slow down and we are stuck. Then you explain to me how this new whatever it is removes the bottleneck. you can't do that, then why are we doing it? There's got to be, like we say, economic reason, which is we have identified our weakest link in the chain and we want to fortify it. And here's how to do it. And then you have justified your expense. Otherwise, you're just fooling around, like you say,
Yeah,
for buzzwords.
because like many things, at least I'm talking from the mobile perspective, there are new things coming up,
Yeah,
and then new libraries and stuff like that. So teams are fine investing in, like, okay, now we are gonna revisit the entire app, we are gonna redesign the entire app because there is this new design. The customer couldn't care less if the button is blue or white, or if it's like, bigger, smaller, whatever. If it, when you hit the button, if it makes the job, then they're fine with it.
exactly.
um but like, yeah, as I said, people are like, of course you as a developer want to learn new things and blah blah blah, but the company shouldn't be the one. If the company is sponsoring that for you, that's cool.
Yeah,
But if the company is not, then it's like your career is not in the hands of the company, it's your own responsibility. So it's up to you how you're going to learn the things.
yeah, yeah.
You are paid, I mean, most of us are paid really good money to solve somebody's problems and to earn money for somebody else, let's say. And in that sense, I don't think, well, yeah, there is always going to be that hype, and people will be jumping for hype because it's going to solve my current problem, maybe solve, maybe not. But it's not going to solve the root cause of the problem. Instead of focusing on the root cause, we are going to just, put something on top, and then we forget about it.
Yeah, and also that kind of points back to the prevailing culture, which if it's output oriented and there's a lot of mystifications and like we don't know what these guys are doing and we have to issue a heal command like to a dog, like because we don't know really what's going on, then these things are going to continue because you are shielded by this wall of mystification and impenetrable membrane. We're like, I don't know what they're doing, and now you're digging around with Kubernetes and all this. They don't know, right? So
Yeah,
that's very. And again, one thing that I appreciate when people propagate TDD and all these disciplines is it, in my mind, that the real value of that, besides helping us deliver quality, is it's buying us time for learning. Because if you're not, in my observation, if you're not doing these XP practices or processes, then you, if I observe engineers who are not doing TDD and all that, they spend a lot of time during the day debugging, manually running apps, manually configuring, changing things. Works on my computer, doesn't work on that one. Manually navigating through the app and entering, typing test data over and over and over. So a lot of hours in the day got eaten up by these are completely non-productive activities. And yet, this is completely sanctioned, and the management think this is great. These guys are super busy bang, but he's just running in circles, or she, debugging. Why? Because there is no test first, right? And now you're stuck. So when you're doing test first, you, all that time is you don't need to debug, you don't need to all the configuration, you don't need to worry about works on my computer, works anywhere. So now what you're going to do with that extra time, because let's face it, nobody can code straight for 8 hours. This is idiotic, right? So I think a large chunk of time gets now freed up to learn, to think, to go for
yeah,
a walk.
yeah.
This is the real value, right? And we're knowledge
Clean
work.
up your mind.
When I'm,
Clean up your mind.
yeah, if
Yeah,
I'm managing teams and developers, I always tell them, look, don't worry, go out, go for a 3 hour walk, go see a movie, something, think, look at things from a different angle. This is your real value. This is why we are paying you.
yeah,
You're a problem solver, right? You're not just a mechanical typist or order taker, right? And that culture needs to, I think, change so that we say, look, embrace TDD, embrace these practices that guys like Jov are teaching you. Get rid of the debugger, get rid of the manual and typing and testing. These are activities I'm not really keen on paying you to spend time. I am keen on paying you to learn. I am keen on paying you to go around and think and have community of practice and have all these like social events and grow, right? And spend time watching Joe's videos and on Twitter discussing these things. because that's how you become more valuable to our organization, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, it's said that like even nowadays people are thinking of TDD as a, first, many folks are talking of TDD as a tool. I see it differently. I see TDD as a skill. So I can teach you TDD, the theory in 5 minutes,
Mhm.
but it takes lifetime to really master it.
Yeah.
And you touched on that topic with Alejandro. Like he asked, how do I know? For example, I start with test-driven development, and then I come up with some. I'm starting to come up with some design, and I'm doing the fake it till you make it. And then how do I know where to stop and start implementing the right thing? So those things are actually coming from the experience.
Mhm.
And depending on the problem that you're having in hand, there is no rule. You stop here. Just like when you're driving the car, you use your eyes and you follow the traffic, and for example, when to start braking in order to brake on time.
Mhm.
It's not something that you can do by rule, or learn as a rule. So it takes time and practice to do that. So and then of course many people are seeing TDD as testing practice or something, which is not. And then many people are saying, okay, my company is not paying for testing, or so again, there is lots of misunderstanding in a sense of like being professional. So I've been once in a company where we were a team of really embracing agile practices and trying all these XP practices as well. And then it was the time when I started learning. So there was a guy who came afterwards and he said, like, my time is valued way more. So I'm not going to be testing. So we have dedicated QA to test what I'm doing. So I cannot stress how wrong that mindset is. Um,
And
and
also,
then they're seeing this, like for example, the test-driven development as something that might waste time or whatever. So if they count all the time, as you said, especially on mobile, like you change something, you hit run, and then you wait for the compiler like 5 minutes, or it could go on Android especially, it could go the compiler up to like, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then an emulator will pop up. Then you go to the particular screen, you enter the data, you hit the button, and you see if what you expect is there. So how about running, like making a shortcut on your keyboard, and you see it in a matter of seconds, like if that works or not.
yeah,
Furthermore, you're going to have a safety net. Like when you implement something else, another screen somewhere, this screen, you know that it still works. You didn't break anything.
yeah,
We've been burned like many times with this, okay, I'm done now with this screen. I'm going to start on this screen, but I'm going to reuse the same abstraction from here. Or like I'm going to come up with another abstraction, and you break the entire thing.
yeah,
And then you deliver that, even deliver that to the QA team, and they're gonna say, okay, what are you doing? This used to work, now it doesn't work.
yeah.
So you start playing ping pong. If all this time is measured by somebody, and then I think you've done that experiment, and then measure the time when TDD practitioners will do the same thing, then you will start seeing the difference in the time.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. To earn trust, you need to change the culture so that it pays attention to the real, to the important things, rather than paying attention to some artifacts that don't mean nothing, right? Artifacts such as code coverage or number of lines of code. We are measuring some output that does not give us any information. And as long as we continue doing that, there will be always a disconnect and misunderstanding as to what is the real value and what is the how do we um, how do we allocate or identify productive time versus just spinning your wheels and wasting everybody's time and harming other people. That is not still, in my opinion, the culture has to change so that these things become identified and easily measured and easily compared. Say, look, you're working like crazy, you're killing yourself, you're spending weekends, nights, you're a fantastic trooper, but 90% of your time you're just chasing your own tail. Something's got to change. You cannot continue doing that. Yeah, but I don't know. What do I do? Okay, here's the YouTube channel, Jov, TDD. Learn this, put it in your practice. All of a sudden, all that chasing your tail stops. Now you have more time to perfect your skill, right? You freed up that time. You're not debugging. See, the problem also is, like you say, and I agree with you. I keep hearing it over and over again. Time spent writing tests is much better spent writing code. That's one fallacy that everybody says, look, Alex, I'm not buying it. Like, why should I spend time writing tests when I'm a coder? I should write code. So that's one
Well, the
fallacy.
test is a code.
Yeah, I know, but they don't.
Yeah.
Second one I can say is I'm not paid to write tests. Now, maybe that's true. Okay, let's say maybe the manager says, look, nobody here is allowed to write tests. We're not paying you to write tests. But my question to that manager is, but how come you're paying them to debug? How is that okay? Why do you think debugging is a worthwhile activity? Because to me, anytime I have to fire up a debugger, it's my own personal failure. I'm stupid. It's my problem. I should never, if I know what I'm doing, I should never be expected to open up a debugger, right? But
Yeah.
yes, I confess, I do every now and then I do debug. Why? Because I'm not as smart as I think I am, and the machine beats me, and keeps me mystified. Like, why is this not working the way I was pretty sure my code is correct, but it's not. So I'm a lousy developer. Okay, but if I'm, following these courses and whatnot, I'm learning TDD. Suddenly I start to realize, hey, when was the last time I even opened a debugger? Like, it was like weeks ago. Fantastic, fantastic time saver.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And the company benefits from that. Everybody benefits, including yourself. Less stress, like everybody says, more confidence,
Wait.
more free time for you to think, to connect with smart people, to grow and learn. It's just a win-win. You cannot. So, but people put it in bad light. I always want to, like, okay, let's talk about the practices. You're getting paid, no problem. Everybody's okay if you spend 25 hours this week debugging. Nobody's going to say, okay, I'm not signing this timesheet, right? But it should raise flags. I think red flags. Why are you spending so much like days debugging? What's going on there, right? Do you know how to do your, craft?
Yeah, but not only the debugging, right? Because yeah, as you said, I don't remember when I used the debugger last time, but I do use it from time to time.
Yeah.
To be honest, I do use it.
Yeah.
But there should be also a count on a time when you build something, you give it to QA. QA just tries it on the first try. It says it doesn't work, gives you back. So that ping pong that you're playing, you should take that time in consideration as well. So
Okay.
all this time waste that you are
Yeah.
doing.
All that should be measured, and at least that we understand the proportions. And if I'm running a business and it's my money, I want to maximize you. I want to play to your strengths, right? So I want to create a situation where you shine, right, and not just playing ping pong with QA. How's that? It creates bad vibes, right? Everybody's like,
Yeah,
oh God, I don't believe this. That's not good. We should create a situation where that never happens, and there are
yeah.
ways
I
to do
mean,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
like you say, and
the
you're teaching them the ways to do it.
yeah.
So again, a plug for you and for your channel, people, Android developers,
Thank you.
go and just code along with Joe, and he's gonna give you, and more exciting things are coming up soon, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's the plan.
Yeah,
So I know many people are not into following videos and stuff, which is fine. But like I developed a thing. I mean, developed. It's sort of obvious. You can set the time, the playback time into 1.5. I don't speak that fast, so the video is gonna go in no time. But very important point is to code along. So if you, for example, just watch the video, you might think, okay, this is cool, I know it. But if you try it yourself, you will start questioning the things, and that's where the learning comes.
yeah.
When you start questioning the things, why now, for example, we are coming out with a fake? Why not this? Why not that? And then try differently. Try it yourself. See
And not,
what works for you.
yeah, not to burst your bubble, but maybe somebody finds a better solution than you,
Exactly,
and then they
exactly.
can
So
put it
then
in
let's
common.
talk. So
Yeah,
we are gonna learn together. That's the thing.
absolutely. So, Job, I think you mentioned you did have some questions, or is this it?
I think we covered mostly, but I got like a huge list from all the things that you've been talking with the others, but I think we covered
Okay,
most of them.
cool.
Um, yeah, I think these activities that you are doing, like the social connection between the people, is really great. Also on Twitter, and I really like that. Also, you are challenging and questioning the things, and I think that should happen from team perspective, all the way up to, like, for example, the social networks.
Right.
Instead of just arguing for the sake of argument, just challenge the thing in order to learn something new.
Hmm.
And then I think that's where the wisdom lays. All these things.
Yeah, because my
Yeah,
position, you may disagree, or people may disagree. Of course, that's expected. But I personally, I don't like. I'm not impressed where we're at. I don't like the current situation. I I think it's pretty bad, to be honest, and I think it deserves care and loving care and attempts to make it better.
yeah. We, as you said, we have to grow up first,
Yeah.
and then professionally, and start taking responsibility for what we do. But in a real sense of the word, like, start taking responsibility. Like, if it's easy to, when somebody else is investing the money, to just waste somebody's money. If you start doing if I am the investor, for example, I would care way more. And it's sad that people are just getting used to this mindset where, as you said, like, that we are in an industry and this is how the things are working. Of course there are better ways, and we have to embrace them.
Yeah, because my particular disappointment is that if you watch any other engineering uh, area or field, they they continue making phenomenal breakthroughs and advancements. But here in the field of software engineering, we are stuck in for the past 60 years in the same old boring, stupid, dull. I call it code as text or whatever you want to call it, right? Just like not going anywhere. There are no breakthroughs, and now we keep observing that as languages are maturing, they're kind of converging back to Lisp, and like we're going back in time to 1958. I don't see any progress in that. I see we keep rediscovering things that have been discovered back in the 60s, and we package them as like, ta-da, this is a great new thing. Like, excuse me, this is like 60 years old. Why are you so excited about some old trash you found in the attic? So very disappointed, and that's why I'm very enthused about your generation. I think you can make the break. You can push the envelope because the incumbent generation just seems satisfied to sit and polish and you know kind of think inside the box. We're stuck inside this box. Now, maybe I'm over dramatizing, but I feel like somebody has to start thinking outside of the box and saying, why are
Yeah.
we doing this? Why even like question everything? Is this really how we want to do things? Because
I think we are not looking at the root cause of the problems, and we are starting to look to find solutions in the wrong things. For example, solve a problem with the language.
yeah,
For some reason, people are really attracted to these, wrong things. As you mentioned previously, like, they're far more better to waste the time debugging and stuff.
yeah,
So that seems more attractive to some people, instead of doing the thing that's gonna save you. Like, it's gonna be less stressful, less time consuming, all these things. So, for example, a real example, actually, in Java, as all other languages, you have the null pointer exception. And then when Kotlin was invented, um, one of the selling point of Kotlin was like, hey, we solved the null pointer exception. So there is no way that you're going to end up with a sort of in a situation, well, because we took the nullability as type in the language. Fine, but then you can still do crap, and then you'll end up with Kotlin null pointer exception. So the language is not going to solve the problem. Uh, so it's just a sugar on top. If you start looking for the actual reason, for the root cause of where is the actual problem, then you can start exploring and finding different solutions.
yeah. And again, I agree with you, and I think the root cause is delayed feedback. So we
Absolutely.
we live in a world where feedback is delayed. Of course, back in the day, in the vintage days, the feedback was delayed by. I remember when I started my first job, I was talking to older colleagues, and they told me that back, I forgot exactly what time frame we're talking, but on some of their jobs, they had one chance per day to compile their code. How is that for delayed feedback?
I mean, yeah.
just to compile, you get one chance. If it craps out, okay, tomorrow is a new day. Try again. This is completely, you are like stuck in Stone Age, right?
Yeah, and like given that today we have these computers, these machines, this software, these all these capabilities around us, to still stuck to something that was way too old. I mean, test-driven development is not new as well,
No.
right? But it was never when I hear people saying like why it is not established around the world, you know. Um, so the thing is that it's not whatever is not required. When there is no requirement, people try to avoid. For example, why do you pay tax? Because there is a law, and if you don't pay, you'll be, you know. I don't really like this punishment culture, of course. But if, for example, when you join a team, the way of doing things is test-driven development, then obviously we're gonna adopt to that, or you can leave the team.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, if like for example, most of the teams are into that mindset, then you choose how you're gonna drive your profession forward. Either you're gonna adopt the things or not. So I think it's easier to, for example, say, okay, I'm not gonna do TDD. I'm just gonna give my build to a QA and let them test. If there is a failure in production, I have somebody to blame. You know, so yeah, I'm not sure. I don't really want to be harsh, but it seems like we are not really acting professionally. Uh, not enough, I would say, in our industry.
And because, it's down to the organizational culture where that's what I keep harping on about. We have zero tolerance for rework, and people are all up in their arms like, rework? Why? You know, how come you don't know how to do it right the first time? Everybody's upset. I'm not paying for rework, and yet we have unlimited tolerance for retries. So, job no rework, just do it once perfectly for the first attempt, push it to the customer, blows up. Hey guys, can you try again? And no consequences.
No
So it
consequence.
should flip over, and it should be like unlimited tolerance for rework and zero tolerance for retries. That's my
Yeah,
main.
I think as you said, like the level of uncertainties in basically this is intellectual work. It's not something that it's not concrete thing that you're gonna build from, like, I don't know, from plastic. Um, so you need to, maybe the rework is not the precise word, because we're not reworking everything from scratch. As I said previously, even if you abandon everything and start from scratch, you have lots of learning about how to, you know, where did you make the mistake the previous time. So I see it as another try, as another iteration over the thing that you're trying to build. So yeah, in that sense, as you said with the article, like you are polishing. If you try to put everything at once, it's same as if you are taking a quick note, and then you come back in like 2 days, you have no idea what were you doing there. So the same happens here. If you're writing an article or whatever, you just put from, like, I don't know, some points that you want to make, and then you build from there on top. So you start like, I want to now talk about agility, then I want to talk about misunderstanding of TDD, and then you put points, and then you evolve on the topic, and then you put the paragraphs after work, make the look and feel, and then you deliver. So in a sense, you do iterations over and over
Yeah.
again.
We've been That's how we've been taught in schools and everywhere, and I'm
Yeah.
really mystified why it in the workplace all of a sudden it's a problem, because we all been educated to start with the outline, and outline is a very low resolution article, like it's really pixelated, right?
Yeah.
And then you keep revisiting your outline and making it more concrete, but
Yeah.
in several iterations. So you increase resolution, right? So you keep changing things that you've already changed. Now on the assembly line, you never do that. You never, you have something, you change it and it goes. You never go bring it back and change it again. That would be
Yeah.
like, that would be punishable. They'll be like, no, I'm not paying you to do. You already did it. I'm not paying you for, because if they're measuring your productivity. But that's assembly line, and that does not apply to any intellectual activity, be it writing essays, writing software, what creating a PowerPoint presentation. You always keep revisiting those slides and changing
Yeah.
something already changed, and that should be completely normal. And I think part of our ingrained culture, and yet all of a sudden everybody's upset when we are saying, okay, we are refactoring. Why refactor? I'm not paying for that. There's no time for refactoring. Like, really, He-
Um,
like I said,
refactoring sprint.
I cannot write an outline and hope that the editor will publish it. Like currently, I'm there's an open source. I like that place, open source magazine, and I have one article sitting with them like since December, and they just keep back and forth, back and forth. Why? Because they're reputable. They don't want to just publish anything. This is not like your hash node or whatever, right? They really know what they're doing. So, for example, they're so good that when they published my article on the best practices in TDD, if you go to Google and you search best TDD practice, I'm on the second or third hit top. Can you imagine like how much I'm competing with so much already popular material? Why? Because they know how to. They have this. I don't know how they do it, but really, if you publish with them, your organically your content is going to be pretty high on
Yeah,
the
and I can imagine all the learning that goes over and over because the more you iterate over it, the more learning you gain.
polish. They come back with me saying, Alex, I would change the wording of this subtitle because they know organically how. And it's we rework like crazy. And nobody's telling these people, why are you wasting time reworking with Alex? Because that's how they make their living. Everybody's okay with that. Why is it all of a sudden a problem in software? This is a big mystery to me.
Yeah, I think the software. Yeah, it is a. I can totally buy that. It's not an assembly line because it is an intellectual work. Sometimes, some days, I don't feel like I can program, right? So I'm not ready today for programming. So I need to go for a walk, as you said, or something. I need to rest, or it's intellectual. I have no motivation to do anything today, for example. And that's why, for example, I don't buy into estimates. They are inviting punishment culture, really. If you, for example, as I said, if you commit to something that you are gonna do, and then you will start cutting corners, do a bunch of crap.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
Okay, so great stuff. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know it's getting late, dinner time and whatnot. But this was brilliant. Thank you so much. And again, I want to emphasize how enthused and happy I am to see your generation taking over. And this time, let's do it right. Let's
yeah,
get rid of all
we're
these.
gonna do it in Python, and then we're gonna do it right.
Let's get rid of all these like crusty old misconceptions and assembly line mentality and whatnot. You can really lead the way, and of course, the other people we're in touch with, there will be more people who join us and see how far we get, right? But
Yeah,
the important thing is not to give up and to be open to each other challenging our preconceived notions because we all come up with a lot of baggage, especially us older guys. We have all these like agendas and things, and I love when people come back and challenge me and say, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. I actually I didn't get it. I thought I got it, but I didn't get it." Right. So that's the brilliance of it, and that's what keeps me very. It gives meaning to my life, right? When I think and when I'm like, oh, this is so satisfying to me, right? Maybe
cool.
somebody else says, "Oh, my head hurts. I don't want to. I just want to go watch football." But that's not. So great.
Yeah, it's really amazing that you are taking this initiative and interviewing young people and actually connecting us together, so we can definitely take the responsibility towards making the things better. As I said, I'm really glad that I'm part of this group that you are inviting. Thank you so much for the time and for this chat. Yeah, I think let's see how everything's gonna go further on.
Yeah. If
I
anything,
think that there is big hope. I think we definitely have to use this wisdom from you, from the, let's say, more mature generation that did all those mistakes, so we can learn from them. And then I really want to just, as a message to everybody, just put the ego aside and then embrace whatever ideas are coming, and then talk about them, do a collaboration, see what works, what doesn't work. Don't be just the stubborn egoist that's gonna say, no, 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 I have 10 years of experience, you don't tell me anything. Don't just try to push that away from you.
that's a great message because we are discovering now that the only way to work in this profession is to work in a team. And
Yeah, and then essentially you are embracing that, and that's really good. I really like that.
and in the team, or if you're doing mobbing or whatever, there is no authors. It's collective ownership. Nobody owns anything, or nobody's gonna be. Job, you are getting you're rewarded. You get special bonus. No, it's a team as a unit, and you don't. There's no further resolution. Just a team, and we
Yeah,
live and die by our product, and we enjoy the spoils when we win, and we lick our wounds when we lose, but as a team. Not
yeah,
pinpointing people say, okay, this guy sucks, that guy's great. Those days are over.
yeah. No pointing fingers.
No, no. It's a team.
It's a
And
team.
then let the team sort things out within themselves. If somebody is a slacker, if somebody is dragging their feet, the team will do interventions. Say, okay, dude, what's going on? Are you planning to stay on this team, or are you looking around? Let's talk. The team will not tolerate. In my experience, the team will not tolerate. If you give them authority and autonomy and agency, the team, they know how to sort things out. Nobody has to intervene from
Absolutely
the
agree.
outside, right? So that's, I think, the message I would take from you and from this call is team. Forget about individuals. Forget about I'm the super duper guru and you suck. As they
Yeah,
say, tide rises equally. All boats go up when there's tide. There's no like, okay, this boat is better. He's gonna go way up, then more up.
yeah.
Okay. On that note, I really want to thank you, and we'll chat again. And
Sure,
I'm very impressed by your work, and hopefully more people will join.
sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, and let's stay in touch.
Let's stay in touch. Bye, Jove.